Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of Storytime with Mr. Haque. So we are currently on the third story of this, I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. This story is called Reason, and it follows the exploits of Donovan and Powell, whom we first met in story 2, The Runaround. Powell and Donovan are now in deep space working with a highly intelligent robot by the model number and name QT1, or as Powell likes to call him, Cutie. Cutie has suddenly stopped being so cute, and things have taken a sinister turn as Cutie has decided that he is superior to the Earthmen, as he calls them, and has asserted his sovereignty. And in all essence, what he's done is he has placed them under house arrest. He said that he will look after them because he likes them. However, he is now in control. He sees himself almost like a prophet figure who is carrying out the work of the master. Okay, so to carry on, Cutie shook his head gravely. This amounts to an obsession. Why should you insist so on an absolutely false view of life? Admitted that non-robots lack the reasoning faculty, there is still the problem of... His voice died into reflective silence, and Donovan said with whispered intensity, "If you only had a flesh and blood face, I would break it in." Powell's fingers were in his moustache, and his eyes were slitted. "Listen, Cutie, if there is no such thing as Earth, how do you account for what you see through a telescope?" "Pardon me?" The Earthman smiled. "I've got you, eh? You've made quite a few telescopic observations since being put together, Cutie. Have you noticed that several of those specks of light outside become discs when so viewed?" "Oh, that? Why, certainly. It is simple magnification for the purpose of more exact aiming of the beam." "Why aren't the stars equally magnified then?" "You mean the other dots? Well, no beams go to them, so no magnification is necessary. Really, Powell, even you ought to be able to figure these things out." Powell stared bleakly upward. "But you see more stars, though, through a telescope. Where do they come from? Jumping Jupiter, where do they come from?" Cutie was annoyed. "Listen, Powell, do you think I'm going to waste my time trying to pin physical interpretations upon every optical illusion of our instruments? Since when is the evidence of our senses any match for the clear light of rigid reason?" "Look!" clamoured Donovan, suddenly writhing out from under Cutie's friendly but metal-heavy arm. "Let's get to the nub of the thing. Why the beams at all? We're giving you a good logical explanation. Can you do better?" "The beams," was the stiff reply, "are put out by the master for his own purposes. There are things," he raised his eyes devoutly upward, "that are not to be probed into by us. In this matter I seek only to serve and not to question." Powell sat down slowly and buried his face in shaking hands. "Get out of here, Cutie. Get out and let me think." "I'll send you food," said Cutie agreeably. A groan was the only answer, and the robot left. "Greg," was Donovan's huskily whispered observation, "this calls for strategy. We've got to get him when he isn't expecting it and short-circuit him. Concentrated nitric acid in his joints." Don't be a dope, Mike. Do you suppose he's going to let us get near him with acid in our hands? We've got to talk to him, I tell you. We've got to argue him into letting us back into the control room inside of 48 hours, or our goose is broiled to a crisp. He rocked back and forth in an agony of impotence. Who the heck wants to argue with robots? It's mortifying, finished Donovan. Worse. Say, Donovan laughed suddenly. Why argue? Let's show him. Let's build another robot right before his eyes. He'll have to eat his words then. A slowly widening smile appeared on Powell's face. Donovan continued. And think of that screwball's face when he sees us do it. Robots are, of course, manufactured on Earth, but the shipment through space is much simpler if it can be done in parts to be put together at the place of use. It also, incidentally, eliminates the possibility of robots in complete adjustments, wandering off while still on Earth, and thus bringing US robots face to face with the strict laws against robots on Earth. Still, it placed upon men such as Powell and Donovan the necessity of synthesis of complete robots, a grievous and complicated task. Powell and Donovan were never so aware of that fact as upon that particular day when, in the assembly room, they undertook to create a robot under the watchful eyes of QT1, prophet of the master. The robot in question, a simple MC model, lay upon the table almost complete. 3 hours' work left only the head undone, and Powell paused to swab his forehead and glanced uncertainly at QT. The glance was not a reassuring one. For 3 hours QT had sat speechless and motionless, and his face, inexpressive at all times, was now absolutely unreadable. Powell groaned. Let's get the brain in now, Mike. Donovan uncapped the tightly sealed container, and from the old bath within he withdrew a second cube. Opening this in turn, he removed a globe from its sponge rubber casing. He handed it gingerly, for it was the most complicated mechanism ever created by man. Inside the thin platinum-plated skin of the globe was a positronic brain in whose delicately unstable structure were enforced, calculated, neuronic paths, which imbued each robot with what amounted to a prenatal education. It fitted snugly into the cavity in the skull of the robot on the table. Blue metal closed over it and was welded tightly by the tiny atomic flare. Photoelectric eyes were attached carefully, screwed tightly into place and covered by thin transparent sheets of steel, hard plastic. The robot waited only the vitalizing flash of high voltage electricity, and Powell paused with his hands on the switch. Now, watch this, cutie. Watch this carefully. The switch rammed home, and there was a crackling hum. The two Earthmen bent anxiously over their creation. There was vague motion only at the outset, a twitching of the joints. The head lifted, elbows propped it up, and the MC model swung clumsily off the table. Its footing was unsteady, and twice abortive grating sounds were all it could do in the direction of speech. Finally, its voice, uncertain and hesitant, took form. I would like to start work. Where must I go? Donovan sprang to the door. Down these stairs, she said. You will be told what to do. The MC model was gone, and the two Earthmen were alone with the still unmoving QT. Well, said Powell, grinning. Now do you believe that we made you? QT's answer was curt and final. No, he said. Powell's grin froze and then relaxed slowly. Donovan's mouth dropped open and remained so. You see, continued QT easily, you have merely put together parts already made. You did remarkably well. Instinct, I suppose, but you didn't really create the robot. The parts were created by the master. Listen, gasped Donovan hoarsely. Those parts were manufactured back on Earth and sent here. Well, replied Cutie soothingly. We won't argue. No, I mean it. The Earthman sprang forward and grasped the robot's metal arm. If you were to read the books in the library, they could explain it so that there could be no possible doubt. The books? I've read them, all of them. They're most ingenious. Powell broke in suddenly. If you've read them, what else is there to say? You can't dispute their evidence. You just can't. There was pity in Cutie's voice. Please, Powell. I certainly don't consider them a valid source of information. They too were created by the master and were meant for you, not for me. How do you make that out? Demanded Powell. Because I, a reasoning being, am capable of deducing truth from a priori causes. You, being intelligent but unreasoning, need an explanation of existence supplied to you, and this the master did. That he supplied you with these laughable ideas of far-off worlds and people is no doubt for the best. Your minds are probably too coarsely grained for absolute truth. However, since it is the master's will that you believe your books, I won't argue with you anymore. As he left, he turned and said in a kindly tone, But don't feel badly. In the master's scheme of things, there is room for all. You poor humans have your place, and though it is humble, you will be rewarded if you fill it well. He departed with a beatific air suiting the profit of the master, and two humans avoided each other's eyes. Finally, Powell spoke with an effort. Let's go to bed, Mike. I give up, Donovan said in a hushed voice. Say, Greg, you don't suppose he's right about all this, do you? He sounds so confident that Powell whirled on him. Don't be a fool. You'll find out whether Earth exists when relief gets here next week, when we have to go back to face the music. Then for the love of Jupiter, we've got to do something. Donovan was half in tears. He doesn't believe us, or the books, or his eyes. No, said Powell bitterly. He's a reasoning robot, damn it. He believes only reason, and there's one trouble with that. His voice trailed off. What's that? Prompted Donovan. You can prove anything you want by coldly logical reason if you pick the proper postulates. We have ours, and Cutie has his. Then let's get at those postulates in a hurry. The storm's due tomorrow. Powell sighed wearily. That's where everything falls down. Postulates are based on assumption and adhered to by faith. Nothing in the air, nothing in the universe can shake them. I'm going to bed. Oh hell, I can't sleep. Neither can I, but I might as well try as a matter of principle. Okay, that seems like a nice place to leave it today. So Cutie is convinced that the Earthmen are just another prop used by the master to serve his will, and they are so deluded that they don't realize that they are purely instruments. Things aren't looking great, but hopefully Mike Donovan and Greg Powell will be able to see this through. We'll see what happens tomorrow. See you later. Bye bye.